Welcome to Bay City's historic State Theatre. The State Theatre presents film, live events, family events, educational programming, and special events. Here is a brief look into its history. (913) Washington has been a home for the performing arts since 1908, when the Bijou Theatre first opened its doors. The Bijou brought the antics of vaudeville to the stage, adding film to its offerings in 1920. In 1922, the theater was renamed the Orpheum. The building was purchased by the W.S. Butterfield theater chain, hiring renowned architect C. Howard Crane to completely redesign and renovate the theater. Two notable theaters designed by Crane are the Twin Fox Theaters in Detroit, Michigan and in St. Louis, Missouri, both of which are currently in operation. Mr. Crane's renovation brought the Mayan aesthetic to the theater. This was highlighted by an impressive marquee, complete with Mayan Indian headdresses, which rose above the front of the building. The theater was designed to resemble a Mayan pyramid and reopened as the Bay Theatre in 1931. Theatergoers were greeted by artwork on the interior that was both colorful and lively. A vibrantly painted decor with stone carvings, lighting that emulated torches, and a backlit scalloped ceiling. In 1957, Washington Avenue saw a new marquee as the building was renamed the State Theatre. The old marquee was replaced with a new one, keeping up with the look of other movie houses during that period of time. During the 1960s, efforts to modernize the building continued, and the interior of the theater was repainted. All of the Mayan artwork was painted over with the same shade of brown, muting the colorful motif. In 1984, ownership changed hands from the W.S. Butterfield chain to George Carasotas Corporation, which closed the theater in 1990. In 1991, it was purchased and reopened by an individual, Tim O'Brien. The theater's aging projection and sound systems eventually rendered it unable to compete with the increase of modern movie houses with new screens. The building was purchased in 2000 by Bay City's Downtown Development Authority and a group known as Friends of the State Theatre, with a determination to revive the aging structure. Through donations and federal grants, the state has since been restored to its 1930s appearance, and the infrastructure has been updated to modern standards. The original colors of the Mayan artwork were recovered and restored, the impressive motif returning to greet visitors once again. The interior lighting was updated, all of the seats, carpeting, and curtains were replaced, a stage was installed, and the sound and stage lighting systems were updated. In 2008, the State Theatre became the first single-screen theater in the United States to install a digital projection system. The film projection system has been refurbished and is still in use. In September 2008, a new marquee first lit up the sky with its tribute to the design of the Bay Marquee of the 1930s. It features two digital displays, colorful lighting, and the faces of Mayan Indians in full headdress watching over Washington Avenue. In 2011, the stage lighting and sound systems were further improved upon, enhancing the experience for film, events, and live performance. The State Theatre now offers modern and classic entertainment in a magical setting. Though there have been many changes, the Bijou has been a part of it all. The Mayan interior is actually built within the walls of the original Bijou Theatre. Original hand-painted designs are still visible on the ceiling and exterior walls. From vaudeville to Bogart, symphony to stand-up, rock and roll and rhythm and blues, the theater at 913 Washington has brought a myriad of entertainment to audiences since 1908. The Historic State Theater Organization is committed to continuing these traditions by providing performing arts and films to enhance the cultural opportunities of all people throughout Mid-Michigan and beyond. Thank you for visiting.
So thank you for coming today. I'm Mike Bacigalupo. I'm the director here at the theater. Also, I'm the director at the Bay County Historical Museum. And I welcome you to the September, yeah, we are in September, right? Okay, just got to check. Because it's 70 degrees out, so you never know what kind of weather we're going to have. What are those kids doing upstairs? Okay, I'm keeping an eye on you guys. Okay, are you Mr. Pavlov's kids? Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure. We'll let them know you're here, okay? And make sure you guys are listening and you know everything going on. So you had a little bit of a history lesson with that movie that we had there. So you heard originally that the building was built in 1908. So what you're sitting in is an actual building that was built in 1908. And we decided to have the series down here today. That way when you're all done, you can actually walk around the theater and see different things that we do talk about today. So as the video had said, this building was built in 1908. It was called the Bijou Theatre at the time. This stage was not here, okay? It was a lot smaller stage. And there was an orchestra pit behind me that the orchestra for the vaudeville shows would play in. And the dressing rooms were actually in this basement that's directly behind us as well. And you can't go down there because it's a lot of curvy steps and I can barely make it down myself. So, but we have a lot of mechanical equipment down there right now. This is what the Bijou Theatre looked like outside. If you were coming down Washington Avenue, this is what you would see. Now, there are still some similarities that you can tell are still there. When we actually took the marquee down, the one that is there right now, pulled some of the stuff off, along the, above the windows there is that red brick. This was all red brick. Picture in your mind red brick, okay? But this was all red brick here. And that red brick is still back behind the walls, okay? Right now it's red paneling that we have, but this red brick is still holding up the walls here as well, okay? There are still some remnants upstairs above the ceiling of the old building as well, and the original walls are on either side of these walls too. It's about 2 to 3 feet on either side of these walls, but these walls were dropped into the original walls. All right, Pavlov's kids, those are something to tell so that he knows you were here, okay? Okay, what are you going to tell Pavlov on Monday? What?
So the spaces between the rear wall and the main wall is about 1 to 2 feet.
They're 1 to 2 feet. I said 2 to 3 feet. You're out. All right. All right, so 1920s, I'm kidding. That was a good one though. Way to remember that. Okay, what kind of candy do we have down there? Skittles. Skittles. You'll remember that, but you can't remember 1 to 2 feet. Okay. All right, so in 1920s, the theater was changed its names to the Orpheum. In the early days, a lot of theaters changed their names all over the place. How many were here when Washington Avenue, okay, I know you're going to show your age, but please answer. How many were here when Washington Avenue was filled with theaters? Well, still, all right, and you admit it, that's good. All right, can you name the theaters? Roxy, Regent, Washington, Empire. Was there any others? The Bay, well that was this one, that was good, okay. So, and did you, I'm going to ask this question because you're of that era. did you get like $1.50 that every Saturday, and you would go to each theater and see different movies at each theater? No? Not everyone? Okay, so most of them though? All right, I've heard stories where the parents would give you like $1.50, and you could get to each theater, get a snack at each one. And what would happen was that you might start here at the Bay at the time, and you would go across the street to the Regent, and then you go down to the Roxy and wherever, and you would see a movie at each different one, because they would play them at different times, so you could go to all of them. Now, the other thing that happened is staffing was pretty minimal back then, and so what they would do is they'd take the staff from one theater, bring it to the next, bring it to the next, and the same management team did the same thing. So things haven't changed much, so there's like one manager that does everything around here, and that's what happened back then too. So back in the 1920s, this building was called the Orpheum Theater, and this is what it kind of looked like. And again, you could see some old remnants from the Bijou. The marquee had changed a little bit. When you go up on the rooftop, if you go up on the rooftop, but if you did go up on the rooftop, I know there's a laser here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Right in here. This roof is still existing right in there, and so is this one back there. And you could actually climb up there and see almost all of Bay City from there. This building right here is an old car dealership, but now this is the United Way next door that we have. And then the building next door would be what is now the Herman Hiss Company, and then next to that would be Herder Music Center. Who remembers what was this way? No, a firehouse. There's a firehouse down there, right next door. On this side. This was an old firehouse. And this is that building right there. So this is an old firehouse right there. So those two buildings are connected. So, and these windows obviously are no longer there, but they're probably all cemented in and stuff now. So, but you'll see changes. So in 1930s, this was called the Bay Theater, and back then that's when C. Howard Crane decided to come in and change from the old brick walls. No questions yet. I'll answer them in a minute. Change them from the old brick walls, and that's when he dropped these walls inside of this theater, okay? And that's when we called it the Bay Theater. And we changed this whole motif to the Mayan theme, and as you saw in the video, he did the St. Louis Fox Theater and the Detroit Fox Theater as well. And then you can see now the difference in the facade. This is what the facade looks like now. And we've got these little lights are still up there. This motif is still up there as well. And obviously we didn't go with the building long marquee. We went with the triangular marquee that we already had, but we did go with the tower that's up there now. And in the 50s, then finally it got changed to the State Theater. And as I said, they used to, as companies used to buy theaters. So this is now what the State Theater looks like in its current state. This was the old marquee up until we changed it to the digital. Obviously you can see in this area, this is a red glass, these are red glass panels. The showcases are still there, and these doors are still there as well, but a lot has changed. Those big windows with the curtains are now small little office windows, and this window does still exist, but it's behind another wall, so you can't even get to it unless you were like a real skinny kid. Projection booth window right here, and then these uplights right here as well are back from the 50s. So we kind of preserved this whole facade with the updated theater. So phase 1 and 2 renovations we started in 2000, and ended in 2003 to almost $500,000. And what we did at that point, we purchased the theater, we put on a new roof, new heating and cooling system, new stage. That's when we brought this stage out, because before, if you were ever here before in the early days, this stage only went up these steps and straight across. This was never here. This part was never there. New barrier-free restroom, which is out the back there. New storage area in the basement. And we were finally granted a 501c3 status, and that's when we first started receiving grants and gifts. And then phase 3A with the renovations, 2003 through 2004, at a little over $500,000, almost $600,000. And we did tuck pointing in the back, trash area in the back. We kind of built onto the back so we had a place to throw our garbage. Electrical and plumbing upgrades, sound and lighting system, not this one that you see here. We had a projection booth, and we improved that. We did a discovery in all this paint. All this paint you see here was not here. This was all brown, called Butterfield brown paint, and they literally took weeks and weeks to scrape all these little cornices and things, and they found these different colors. Went down to our local Sherwin-Williams store right down here on Washington Avenue, got all the paint, and then they spent weeks on scaffolds painting this place from ceiling to the floor, and this is what they came up with, and this is what they decided this place looked like in the 1930s. The balcony was very unsafe at the time, so we rebuilt the balcony floor and made more legroom there. Phase 3B in the summer of 2005, almost $750,000. We put in a new screen. We took all the seats out of the theater and we put new ones in, finished the paint job, refinished the floors, and then we've got this new old design in carpeting. If you look at this carpeting, it is the ugliest carpeting ever. But this is what it looked like in the 30s. I've got a ton of it. If anybody wants to date themselves and take it home, they can. We actually took a little bit and put it in the museum at the theater, over there at the theater, but I've still got a bunch left. But this is the carpeting that was there back in the 30s. We redid the curtain here. These sconces that are up here, right here, we tried to replicate what we had, but then we had an artist do some glass feathers so that it made it look more like a Mayan king. And then we took the ceiling cove lights and fixed all that stuff so that we had some LED lighting in there in the coves. And then of course you see the little stars in the ceiling as well. Inside of the theater, we unveiled it September 15th, 2005 at the annual Taste and Theatrics event, and phase 4 renovations for the marquee started in July 2007. And in one event we raised over $15,000, oops, and this is what we came up with the new marquee, and it's now digital, so we don't have to put letters up every now and again, and now we can just type it in and it goes up there magically. Anybody know what this is? What? Good, the projector. That is our the Barco projector. We are the first single screen theater in the area with a digitally cinema projection system. And we're pretty much, when I say single screen, how many single screen theaters are around here? Not many, okay? You have the Temple Theater in Saginaw. They don't have one of those. We have the Court Street Theater in Saginaw. They don't have one of those. There's not many other single screen theaters that have what we have upstairs. And then we have the new lighting system and the new sound system. So before we had, this is our new lights in action. Before we had just these spotlights on the sides that you see up here, and that was pretty much it. What we decided to do is we made it so that we could actually change all the colors of each of these lights that are hanging on the side. We focus them and then they pretty much stay put. We added this truss that's above your head, and all of those heads right there, we have a control board in the back. They can move, they can go all over the place and make, you know, a lot of different scenes on the screen and on the walls. And now we can pretty much do a lot of different things that really decorate a show when they're here. Sound system, we used to have right in this area, right up here, a little one speaker that would try to cover the entire area. And then down front here in the stage, we have built-in speakers as well. So what we did, if you look up here, we have these hanging speakers here that cover the entire area, same on either side, and then these little speakers right here cover the front. We still have the speakers in the theater, and then there's also speakers in the balcony. So that was our sound and lighting upgrade, and we're always looking at new technology, and we completed that in 2014. In 2006 is when I came aboard here, and we've completed quite a bit in the 8 years that I've been here. So this is a sound system, a little bit better picture of the sound system here, and then this is a soundboard back in the back. It's obviously, you know, we got a lot of tape and popcorn that we eat back there. I'm not sure what else he does back there, but I can barely turn it on. I know there's a switch, and I know how to turn a light on, but that's it. Touching anything else, he just hands me stuff and say, here, go. So, but it's very technical, and I thank Paul Phillips, our Director of Operations, for getting all this put together, because without him and his technicians, we couldn't have done it without him. And then we did the front facade refurbishing. All this paint right here and these little areas right here, all of a sudden it started to flake away. And we all know what paint was made of back in the 30s and 50s, right? Lead. So we had to go up and had to do a lot of remediation up in the top here. And we just pretty much covered the building and cleaned it all up, and we just did the whole front facade and didn't repaint it with lead. So it's kind of good now. So we have, obviously we do a lot of different things here at the theater. Coming up here at the theater right now, we have, how many remember Ricky Nelson? How many remember Ricky Nelson played in Bay City? Okay, well, Ricky Nelson's sons will be here doing a show in their father's honor next Saturday called Ricky Nelson Remembered, and they play all of the old classics. And then, of course, we have our Bijou Orchestra, which is named after the original building. We do comedy shows. This guy's name is Greg Hahn. He's like Tourette's on steroids. So we have Phil Dirt and the Dozers coming. And they typically play outside every year, but this year they wanted to play inside, so they're going to be coming here and playing inside. We have the Best of ABBA. They're coming from Canada, and they're going to be playing here, doing a fundraiser for All Saints. And then we have the Winter Dance Party. How many remember the Winter Dance Party? You were never there, because it never happened. It really did, but not in Bay City. It's a tribute to Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. Now, obviously they all died in a plane crash in the early days of their career. This guy right here, the Big Bopper, this is actually the original Big Bopper's son. So he's actually going to be here playing his dad with these other two guys. So this is going to be happening in November as well. So hopefully it's not winter at that point. So way back in the day, you know, a lot of different arts organizations just kind of did all their own things. And so probably about 8 years ago, a lot of the arts organizations got together and they started collaborating, and they created the group called What's Next Bay City. And it's made up a group of the State Theater, the museum, the library, Delta College Planetarium, Studio 23, Bay City Players, and Bay Sail, and the Masonic Temple, and Bay Concert Band, and we all get together once a month and we start bouncing ideas off of each other. We see how we can collaborate on a lot of different programs. One of the biggest things that we've ever done, and we continue to do it on a monthly basis, or a quarterly basis I should say, is how many get that postcard in the mail every time. So if you don't get one, okay, if you don't get one, it's out there in the lobby. It's an orange postcard. Grab it. It tells you everything that goes on in Bay County in a 4-month time frame. And there's at least, in a 4-month time frame, at least 125 events going on in 4 months, every 4 months. So if somebody says there's nothing to do in Bay City, especially those kids up there, you know, they're wrong, because you're not getting the postcard, or you're just lazy and you're not looking at it. But there's always something to do, and it's from preschool all the way up to, I didn't say it, but somebody did. All right, but so if you don't have one or haven't gotten one, please grab one on the way out, because it is something that you really want to make sure you get, and you can email and we can get you on our mailing list if you're not already on it. So what else are we doing? Well, here you see a big concert in Winona Park, and we all know what this thing did, and we all know what we went through to get that built, but we have the Nicklaus family pavilion built, and in the 60s there was a pavilion in Winona Park called the Eddy Pavilion, and there were some groups that really needed or wanted a pavilion, and there's some that didn't want the pavilion. Well, we ended up getting this pavilion built, and all the money was donated by foundations and private donations, and the State Theater was the driving force behind that. And we partner with the City of Bay City and bring concerts to Winona Park every week in the summertime, and even on the weekends. And so that's one of our new collaborations is with the City of Bay City, and we try to bring thousands of people down here. How many been to the Wednesdays in the Park concerts? Okay, and you've all probably walked by the pavilion or sat under it, because now it's probably the only shade that's there in the park, okay? There's a little bit of shade over here and a little bit over on this side, but this is probably the most shade that's there now. So this is one of our new projects that we completed in June of 2018, and it's been going over very well. In the winter months we have the ice skating from November until the end of February, and then in the summer months, of course, we do major concerts and the Wednesdays in the park and the Tuesday movies in the park. We have our concession stand that was donated by Frankenmuth Credit Union, and we have our skate shop that was donated by the Kiwanis Club and the Bay City Morning Rotary Club, and then here are the ladies that donated $1 million to this whole project. These are the Nicklaus sisters. You can see the concession stand behind, and then they're standing on the ice skating rink that we built when they were in town. And as you see, there's no snow on the ground. So this was in May, and they came into town, and we put up an ice skating rink in May because we have artificial ice. So we could skate year round if we wanted to. We don't, because we're too busy. But these are the ladies that donated the $1 million to build that project. And then of course our next project is to complete the bandshell and renovate that. This is what the new bandshell will look like. Disregard all of this stuff right here because this isn't being done, but this is what the new bandshell will look like when it's all said and done. Knock on wood, hopefully we're going to start that next month. So hopefully that happens. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are you up here?
I'm looking at you.
Okay. Mike, I was wondering, back in the 1920s, what would have been happening here? Original music shows or just films?
Back in the 1920s, there would have been still vaudeville going on. Okay, the question was in the 1920s, what would be going on here? Who was here in the 1920s? Nobody's going to admit that one. I wasn't, that's for sure. But in the 1920s, there would have been still vaudeville shows going on in a small stage. Films just kind of starting, but not a whole lot of them. So, but they did, and a lot of them were, a lot of the shows were not fit for kids, if you really want to know that, you know. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff that was going on. Yeah, and it wasn't just happening in this building, others as well. Yes, sir. Yep.
What was the first movie ever watched?
The first movie ever watched in this theater, unfortunately, I do not know, okay, but the one that is always brought to my attention, that the first one that other people have watched in this theater, guess what that is? Jaws. So Jaws has been the most popular movie in this theater, and guess what? It was always on a first date. So the guys that would bring their girls here saying, hey, we're going to watch a movie called Jaws, and all you see is blood, guts, and sharks. So that's what they used to do, and that was back in, you know, early, when I was younger. Yes, sir.
Who's the first architect to have built all this? Like ceiling, the wall?
C. Howard Crane is the one that built this as you see it today. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Why is it necessary to have such a high ceiling?
Acoustics are one, and that's the main reason we have a high ceiling here, because if you had a really low ceiling, then the sound would bounce up and down and it would be horrible sounding. I can sit here and talk like this and you can still hear me, so that helps with the acoustics, okay? It's better with a microphone because you can really hear me, but without a microphone you can still hear me just as well, okay? So this is a very great acoustic room that you're sitting in, that you really don't need a lot of sound coming at you. But with high ceilings, it helps with the sound bouncing or not bouncing all around the room. In a cement room, if you were in a cement block room, it would be like the sound you'd be talking over there and it'd be bouncing from here and going all over the place. Any other? Back in the back.
What was St. Lawrence Brothers like in the 1930s?
What was St. Lawrence Brothers like in the 1930s? Anybody? Same as it is now. It was a nut shop, but they didn't sell all the peanuts and things like that they have now, or the candy that they have now. But it was still called the Nut House back in the 30s. And but you can. I think the guy next to you probably will take you there after we're done, and you can ask a guy by the name of Steve. Ask him if he knows what it was like in the 30s, okay? And you tell him I said that, okay? No, but it's pretty much the same as it was now, okay? Yes, ma'am.
When you say they dropped the walls in, what does that mean?
Well, when I say when they dropped the walls in, they literally, I'm sorry, was I out of the, you okay? Okay. We have the normal brick walls that are already there. They slid these walls in pieces, okay? As you can see, there's chunks and different layers and things like that. So they brought them in pieces and built them up and built what you see now. So, but they did that two reasons: to change the look, because all we had is brick like you see now on the outside, and then And then acoustically, these are great walls too. So, how thick are these walls? About 3 inches. Yeah, and then it goes another 2 feet, and according to him, 1 foot, but 2 feet on either side is when they come in.
You answered another one of my questions. I wondered about the feathers, and you said they're glasses.
Yeah, these are all glass feathers. And when you guys are done, everybody's done, you can walk around. Are you 2 girls on a cell phone upstairs?
We're using it to take notes.
Okay, I want to see those notes. Good answer. When you walk around the theater, you can actually walk up and see the glass feathers and touch them, and it's real glass. Yeah, so, okay.
Your window, I would call it, up there on the wall.
Organ bay?
Yeah, where you have the light behind there?
Yep.
How far in the back of that wall is before you get to the original wall?
Actually, this one would be a better one to do. It's about 2 feet on that side. What you see there is it's an old organ bay that it's like a framing behind it with a material behind there to give it that look. Okay, that's what they did, is it made it a look, and then directly behind is the original wall. There's a ladder that I don't recommend anybody climbing up, but over on this side that you can actually get up and you can actually touch that organ bay and touch the other wall at the same time.
What is an organ bay?
An organ bay is where the pipes used to be for an organ, if there was an organ here, you know, before an old silent movie or whatever. Yep. I saw another hands up over here.
Why Mayan?
Why Mayan? Because he liked Indians. C. Howard Crane liked to do stuff with Mayan themes, and he did a bunch of theaters in the Mayan theme, and that's why he liked doing it. So, and we're one of the 3 or 4 left in the country. The rest of all either burned down or been converted into something else. Yes, sir.
What was the first film you ever watched in this theater?
First film I ever watched in this theater was Star Wars. Huh? The one you probably don't even recognize anymore. Which would be the very first one. 1977. I think it's called A New Hope. Google it. I'm sure you will. Say. What's the most famous musician we've had here? We've had a lot of different musicians here. We've had a lot of different entertainers here. I would say the most famous local musician, and I know he's not here today for me to say this, but I would say the most famous local musician we've ever had here is Bob Blanc. We all know Bob, and he was probably the most famous local guy that we've had here, and unfortunately he's taken ill and he can't do shows anymore. But I think the most famous nationally known musician we've had here is Jeff Daniels, and Kevin Nealon, the comedian from Saturday Night Live, and Jim Belushi from Saturday Night Live. I think those guys are the most famous nationally known guys we've had here. Well, I could have said Kevin Cole, you know, but yeah, he's been here as well, okay. Yeah, they're close tie. There you go. Yes, back there. Has there been any paranormal activity here at the theater? Well, I gotta tell you, I've been here early in the morning or late at night and nobody else is here, and I've heard slamming doors or different things like that. I know Paul has said a few stories like that too, that he's had a few brushes with a ghost. Don't know if it's the wind or, you know, whatever, but you just don't know. But we've had some ghost hunters come in here and never find anything. So we've actually had that happen, and I don't think they've ever found anything. Or they're just a bunch of freaks. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
The little pictures on the wall.
Yep.
Do they mean anything?
This is my baby picture, right there. This is me after a long night. No. They're just Indian symbols, okay? Mayan Indian symbols that C. Howard Crane put in here. And I think there's 3 or 4 of them that are different. These are letters. Couldn't tell you what they say. I've heard that they say nasty things about me, but not really. But these are just Mayan symbols that say, you know, are just different gods or things like that. So from what I'm told. Do you guys ask this many questions at school?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Is this supposed to be like a Egyptian or like Indian?
Mayan. It's Mayan. Make sure you write that down, Mayan. And it's not spelled M-Y-N. M-A-Y-N. A-N. Yes, sir. You have another question up there? Okay, I saw a hand in the back. Mike.
I believe that one time both of those 3 different walls may have been around in here. There used to be exits that went out the front. Those doors are talking about, you need to walk all the way out to Washington through those exits, both sides.
Yeah, these used to go all the way to Washington Avenue. You'd go out this way and that way. Okay. Now it just goes directly to the alley in the back where you get mugged. Okay. Not really, but this one you get mugged at, not that one. But this exit used to go out and then all the way to the main road, and then but now it just goes out to the alley. Thank you, Mike. He must have been around when they did that.
That's probably why they brought these walls into the hall. The other thing is that you wear 2 hats. The remnants of the original State Theater isn't our real theater.
Yeah, I haven't got. Yeah. The theater, the Hatchell Theater in the museum has some remnants of this theater in there. It's got some of the chairs in there. It's got this lovely carpeting that I talked about earlier. And then it actually has the sconces we have here, we replaced and we put down at the museum theater. It's got the theater sconces from the 1930s into that one too. So we did a lot of rewiring to make them work, and yeah, they still work, shockingly, after all these years. So, yes.
What movie was presented here and directed and made by a local artist?
That was presented here at the theater. We've had multiple movies that were directed, and local directors had presented them here. We've had a lot of movie premieres here. We've had one called, one of the first ones I ever, when I took over back in 2006, one of the first ones I did was called Locked Away, and that was a local director, and then there was a couple others from a guy from All Saints did a couple of guys from All Saints did a couple different movies, but Locked Away was I always remember that one because that was the first one that I ever booked here. So, and it was the first movie premiere we've ever done here since I was here. So I don't know if they ever did any others before that. So, but that's the one I remember first.
How tall is your screen to look at?
Paul, how tall is the screen?
The white part, 13 feet.
13 feet is the white part. And another 20 feet high, give or take. with the black skirting. Yep. The screen that we have at the at Winona Park that we use for the free movies, if you've been there before, that's 20 feet wide by 40 feet high. So that's a lot bigger one. So, any other questions? Oh my, yes, up in the balcony.
You said that you know like people come in for the best paranormal stuff. Would they ever come to TV show or something?
No, these are local paranormal people that want to, you know, they probably drink a lot. And no, I'm just kidding. No, they come in and try to test. You know, when they come in, it's like an overnight thing that they come in, and you know, I don't know that they ever find anything really. So yes, sir.
Was it chapter 2 in this film, right? Was here yesterday or the day before?
Say that again.
Was it chapter 2 in theaters in here?
No, it was never here. It chapter 2 was never here at this theater. Anybody ever hear It chapter 2? It's never here before. So, anything else?
What did they cost to come to the first movie?
The first movie was 5 cents. And actually we were doing some digging down in the basement at one point, and we found some old tickets and some old milk dud boxes, you know, and there's some other things that we couldn't really tell what they were, but we could tell that they were from the early days because they kind of fell apart a little bit. But we tried to get them preserved and things like that. Didn't work out, but we do know it was 5 cents, you know, for one of the movies. So we could find that out too. So.
Does the basement cover the whole size of the scene?
Is the basement the entire length? You can go down. We have 2 basements. We have one in the back and we have one in the front. And if you go down the front basement here, you can go down and we have some storage stuff, and you can actually go down there and see. But then there's a little door that you got to crawl in, and then you can crouch down, and you can almost get to, I think it's about from the front of the building to about here, okay? And then it gets a little dicey. And then when you go down to the back of the building, you can get to from maybe about 4 more feet and then go back to the rest of the building. Again, you would have to crawl into some areas to do that, but it does go the full length of the basement, yes. And in the back, let's see, it's in the back this way. If you were in the alley, there's some difference in brick. You can see where the old coal chute is and things like that, how they used to heat the theater and stuff. Up in the upper above the ceiling, there is some old machinery that I believe used to ventilate the whole. Is that correct, Paul? The ventilator, this whole ventilator type system, it's still up there. There's no way that thing's coming down, unless of course the roof just says forget it and comes down, because it's big. So, yes, ma'am.
At the beginning, your films came in, they were film cans or something, and how did they come in now?
The way the films, the question was in the beginning, they used to come in film cans, and it was like 6 reels per movie that they would come in, and then from what I know, Paul would attach each reel together and then play it, and we still have that projector in the projection booth that you do that. Now it's either on a little disc, something you shove in a computer like about this size and it plays a whole movie, or it's on a DVD. So because we can play either way right now. So we have 3 different ways of playing movies, either on film, DVD, or digitally. So, and some are even smaller than this. So, yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, does anybody remember when there were ushers at theater? In 1967, early 1967, the Sound of Music was here for a month. I can testify to that because I was in it.
We have an old Usher from here in 1967. and we, huh? What's that?
I've seen it enough for a lifetime.
Yeah, you've seen enough Sound of Music. You don't want to hear Do Re Mi ever again, do you? Okay. All right. So and you know, she remembers being an usher, and at all of our shows, we have obviously our volunteer concession people. We have volunteer ticket takers. We have volunteer ushers. And so as you hear what I'm saying is, we always take volunteers here to help out at all of our shows, and they're never played for a month. We play them one time and we're done, one and done. So if you ever want to volunteer here, you can call the theater box office and talk to Brenda, and she can get you on our volunteer list. And we have a lot of fun. Yes, ma'am.
I did move from being an usher to the candy stand, and the smell of popcorn permeates.
So,
And then to the tickets.
so you got promoted from ushering to candy to ticket taking.
Remember, this is a part-time job.
Right, right. Congratulations on that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You know, in the 40s and 50s, you could tell an usher because they were dressed differently.
Right. Our ushers typically wear black pants and a white shirt. Some go a little bit different and wear a bow tie and things like that, and you know, it's up to them. But you know, we have a lot of different people that work and come here and do stuff, and they like to do it just because they want to help the theater out, and they also, you know, get to see a show at the same time. So and we have a lot of fun doing it, and we've converted that from down here at the theater to down at the park as well. So we're bringing people down there to help out as well. So if any of you have volunteered here, thank you. And we have volunteers. Tom and Chris out in the concession stand have been a staple volunteer here and at the park forever. So on your way out, give them a big thank you for helping out here as well. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever have any trouble at this theater with that combustible film? What was it, celluloid? I forget. It used to be spontaneously combust sometimes.
We've never had a fire here or anything like that. You know, in my knowledge, that anything exploded. My head has exploded a few times, but not because of that. So, yes, sir.
A lot of real early theaters had to have generators and engines to power their theaters. This place always had electricity, or did they have their own power system?
Yeah, it had its own power system in the early days, and then it's been renovated multiple times since then. And as I said, there's a piece of equipment upstairs that would attest to that, because that thing did not run on it ran on coal and all this other stuff. So, and you can see there's still some remnants down in the basement too that you could see of the coal and things like that, how it was run that way too. So it's a lot cheaper to run coal and stuff, but you know, consumers and City Electric, you know, what they've done. So, anything else? Yes. Up.
One more. I wonder if you could give us a sense of how unique Bay City is to have a theater of this quality. Because I was here when Jeff Daniels was here the first time, and a lot of people that play here are astounded at how beautiful this theater is.
Well, I'll just put it into perspective here. Okay, who's talking about the paranormal stuff? Is that you? I'll put it into perspective. Bay City is lucky that this theater was saved back in the early days. It was going to be a parking lot, okay? And you know, it was either a parking lot or going to be this, and I think we were very, very lucky that it was saved to be this. As she had mentioned, Jeff Daniels, who has always said to me and his agent that anytime he's touring, there's three theaters that are on his list that he will always play at. One is the Lexington Theater in Lexington, Michigan, over in the Thumb area. One is the Purple Rose in Chelsea, which he always plays in, and one is the State Theater here in Bay City. Because he said he comes in, he knows what he's going to get, and he enjoys playing here, and he knows the audience loves what he does. So that says a whole lot, and one of his comments was that the State Theater is a gem for Bay City, and we've tried to keep it that way for everybody. So thank you for that. So yeah. Yep. No. Anything else? Any other questions? So before you guys leave, I know it's I don't even know what time it is, but one of our board members from the museum, who's not here today, but she will be probably at our last board meeting. She's going to be retiring from the board at the museum, and unfortunately she's not here today, but Judy Jeffers, I don't know if you know Judy or not, but Judy started the Second Saturday lectures, and she was always very, very instrumental in keeping these things going and keeping things rolling. And then when I came aboard, she was excited because we were able to keep a lot of different shows going and keep people coming into the museum or different areas of Bay City. And we're making some changes at the museum. I'm going to hate to see Judy leave because she's been an integral part in the history of the Bay County Historical Society. But you know, she's not here today for us to wish her well. But if you know Judy, tell her I said this, and then and just wish her well. We're going to do that at a board meeting at the end of the month. But she's been a real big part of the museum for a long time with the Second Saturdays, with tour homes, and we just want to wish her well. She just thinks it's time to take off and let some younger people take over at the museum board. So if you do know Judy, tell her, wish her well, and if you don't, I'll tell her for you. There we go. So Mike, Leo, we have two board members here. Do you guys have anything to say, anything to add? You guys are good? Okay, so good. Okay, that's good. Now, I just want to finish up by saying that that the next second Saturday is the second Saturday in October. We're going to be talking about Jackie Robinson and his ties to Bay City, Michigan. So Jackie Robinson, the baseball player, and his ties to Bay City, Michigan, and you would never know that we had those kind of ties. So, and then in November, the second Saturday in November will be the history of the Santa House. So, kids, you're going to want to be there. Yeah. Okay. Santa Claus. Santa. Okay. What? Yes, sir. Another question?
What's that Jackie Robinson?
Huh?
Is he still alive or in
Jackie Robinson, the baseball player. I think he's dead, isn't he? Yeah, he's long gone. Yeah, he was a real famous baseball player in the early days. Google him. I know you will. So, anything else, folks? Thank you so much. Take your time, look around, look at some pictures of who's been here at the theater, and if you have any other questions, I'm here. Thank you.